Philippines said on Sunday that more than 135 Chinese maritime militia ships were swarming a reef that it claims sovereignty over in the disputed South China Sea, with Manila calling the vessel's ramped-up presence alarming. The existence of the Chinese ships, ostensibly fishing boats in the area of Whitsun Reef, which the Philippines calls Julian Felipe Reef, had grown since when 111 of the vessels were detected, Philippine Coast Guard spokesman J. Terrelia said in a statement. Whitsun Reef in the Spratly Island chain, around 325 kilometers or 200 miles west of the Philippines' Palawan Island, is also claimed by China and Vietnam, but it's more than 1,000 kilometers from China's nearest landmass, Hainan Island. Whitsun lies within the Philippines' internationally recognized exclusive economic zone, which extends 200 nautical miles or 230 miles beyond a nation's territorial sea, and Manila says it enjoys the exclusive right to exploit or conserve any resources. The Philippine Coast Guard said officials had directed it to carry out a maritime patrol to challenge and document the illegal presence of the Chinese maritime militia vessels, which Manila characterized as an alarming development, but that no response was made to radio challenges by the Coast Guard. The incident appeared similar to one in March 2021 that saw Beijing send more than 200 maritime militia vessels into the area for several weeks as it ignored calls from Manila to leave the reef. That standoff also saw the United States, which has a mutual defense pact with the Philippines, back Manila in asking the Chinese fishing flotilla to leave and accusing China of using its maritime militia to intimidate, provoke, and threaten other nations, which undermines peace and security in the region. China ignored that call, insisting that the offshore territory was its own. The face-off between Manila and Beijing in the South China Sea in recent months, including a collision and near collisions at sea close to key military outposts, have stoked fears that the row could boil over into conflict under its so-called 9-dash line. Beijing claims some 90% of the South China Sea, a position that flies in the face of a July 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague, invalidating most of those claims. Beijing does not recognize the ruling, calling it a piece of waste paper. It has also conducted a massive land reclamation project to essentially build and militarize a number of islands in the waters, despite protests from other claimants, as well as the United States and Japan. Washington and Tokyo fear that the Chinese-held outposts, some of which boast military-grade airfields and advanced weaponry, could be used to restrict free movement in an area that includes vital sea lanes. Under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Manila has boosted efforts to assert its claims on the strategic waterway, repeatedly protesting, filming and publicizing alleged harassment by Chinese vessels there. China has maintained that its actions are lawful and professional. The Philippines has also bolstered defense ties with the US, Australia, and Japan in an attempt to bring more allies and partner nations on board in support of its moves, conducting joint military exercises with all three countries. Meanwhile, Chinese and US warships were in the South China Sea on Thursday, conducting rival exercises in the disputed waters amid heightened tensions involving US ally, the Philippines. Beijing's People's Liberation Army PLA Southern Theater Command, a day before, said a 2-day deployment of its Navy and Air Force, scheduled to end today, was carrying out routine patrols in the sea. It did not mention where exactly the patrols took place or give specific details of the goals of the exercises. They took place as the United States said an aircraft carrier strike group led by the USS Carl Vinson was conducting 2 days of drills with the Philippine Navy. Beijing claims almost the entire South China Sea and has ignored an international tribunal ruling. It deploys boats to patrol the busy waterway and has built artificial islands that it has militarized to reinforce its claims. While China typically uses its Coast Guard to enforce its claims in the area, military exercises are not uncommon, with Beijing's Navy conducting routine drills in late November. But this week's drills follows a month of tense standoff between China and the Philippines in disputed reefs in the area that saw a collision between vessels from the two countries and Chinese ships blasting water cannons at Philippine boats. One expert told AFP that Beijing was seeking to turn the South China Sea into a Chinese-controlled waterway and a strategic choke point for other countries. The South China Sea is becoming a key defensive zone for China. Michael Raska, assistant professor and military expert at Singapore's Nanyang Technological University, said.